Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Scott Schell, and I'm a specialist in the Germanic languages. I'm currently an independent scholar, formerly associated with the University of California, Berkeley. I hold a bachelor's degree in German, a master's degree in linguistics, and a PhD in Germanic linguistics. Now, in this next video, I would like to go ahead and discuss Wōdanaz and its different iterations in the other Germanic languages. Wōdanaz. This is what Odin's name would have sounded like approximately 2,000 years ago among the Germanic tribes. So originally his name was Wōdanaz, and then later on we get names like Woden or Wodan or Óðinn or Wōtan, for example. But I wanted to go ahead and start off with the Proto-Germanic reconstruction of his name and show you basically how it's broken down. So really we have Wōð, A, Na, and Z. It's not actually Wōdanaz in the sense of like Wōd, and Oz. This is a misconception. It's usually from people who, from people who look at it this way. It's usually from people who are not linguists, and they look at words like Dagaz or Thorisaz or Manaz, like these rune names, for example, that end in a Z, and then they think, well, naturally, that's what the same ending is in Wōdanaz. That is not the case. So the word can actually be broken down as follows. Wōð, which can mean like fury or madness or ecstasy. A, which comes from Wōdaz, it's compounded onto this word. Na, which is a suffix indicating leadership. And then the Z, which is just a grammatical ending. So really his name is like leader of the insane, furious, or ecstatic ones. This Na concept can also be seen in the Proto-Germanic words Harjanaz, Theoðanaz, and Druchtinaz. And this NA actually reaches far back into Indo-European times, in which case it was NO. We see its iteration in Latin as NU in the names Neptunus or even Silvanus. So with Neptunus, for example, you have this ruler of the seas, ruler of the ocean. Silvanus is, ruler of the forest, if you will, or leader of the forest. So for Gothic, Odin's name is not actually attested. However, if you would like the reconstruction of Odin's name into Gothic, it would simply be Wōdans. It is spelled with a D, but it is pronounced like a TH in the word father. So if you think about the Proto-Germanic form, Wōdanaz, and then Gothic, Wōdans, it's pretty close. As you can see, the W remains the same, the O remains the same, the EV sound remains the same, the A remains the same, and really the only thing that drops off is that that last A and then the Z becoming what they call devoiced to S. And so that is how you get the Gothic form of Odin's name from Proto-Germanic. As far as Old Saxon is concerned, Odin's name was Woden with an E. As you can see, the W was still preserved from Proto-Germanic. It's simply written as literally double U. In Old Saxon, the O remains a long O. The eth, however, shifts to D. The A becomes weakened to E, and then the N is preserved, and the A and Z that you see in Wōdanaz simply falls off. That's just, we would say that they became apocopated. And we actually, if you want to go ahead and actually write or pronounce Odin's name in Old Saxon in its more archaic form, it would have actually been written with an A, like Wodan rather than Woden. And we know that the Old Saxon Helion poet sometimes even mixed those two endings up. You see the word Theoden spelled with an E, but then you also see the word Theodan spelled with an A. So whatever the case, his name is attested as Woden with an E, but if you're feeling a little archaic, you could go ahead and write his name as Wodan with an A. So Old English Woden is explained pretty much the same way that I just explained Old Saxon. However, there is another form of Odin that is spelled with an ö. It's pronounced something like Woden. This does not come from Proto-Germanic Wōðanaz, but rather from Proto-Germanic Wōdans with an I. And essentially it is this I which makes this O a front vowel. So that's how you have the two different forms. You have Woden coming from Wōdanaz and Woden coming from Wōdanaz with an I. This is actually how we also have the English Wednesday. So an earlier form of Óðinn in Old Norse was probably something like Óðinn with an A. I do not adhere to the idea that Óðinn's name is just simply the root plus the suffix. I mean, it is that now, but in earlier times it wasn't that. It was probably ANN, and then the suffix was analogized to his name to fit his name, if you will. It was under the influence of these suffixes to then take the root oath and attach a definite article to oath, in which case you get Óðinn. This can also be said about the god Óðir, right? The difference between Óðinn and Óðir is not just simply in older times an exchange of a suffix. And in fact, Óðir doesn't come from Wōdans per se, but actually comes from Wōðus. As far as how do you get from Proto-Germanic Wōdanaz to Old Norse Óðinn, well, you see that the W is gone in Old Norse. That's because the W and the O share similar qualities called roundness. If you say, for example, won't in English, say it very slow, wo, and then the O, you'll see that your lips are rounded when you pronounce the W and then the O. And so what happened in Old Norse is that these two sounds basically assimilated and the W fell off, leaving you only with O. The eth is still there, and as I had just recently explained, the older form was probably Óðann with an A, so the A would still be preserved, and then the AZ, well, really the A drops off in Proto-Germanic, and then that Z becomes an R, and then the R is assimilated, and that's how you have Óðinn from Proto-Germanic Wōdans. So the last form that I wanted to talk about today is Old High German Wotan. It is not actually pronounced V as in Wotan, that is much later. The Old High German pronunciation of W is simply W. So from Proto-Germanic, we have the W that's preserved. We have the long O becoming a diphthong, UO, which is common to Old High German. And we have the eth first becoming a D, as we see in the West Germanic languages, the other West Germanic languages like Old English and Old Saxon, but in Old High German, this becomes a T, and this is a secondary sound shift that is specific to Old High German. And then you have the AN, which is preserved, and then the AZ drops off, like in all the other West Germanic languages. Well, that's pretty much all I had for you today. Was just this discussion of Wōdanaz and his name in the various Germanic languages and how we actually arrive at those different forms in the Germanic languages. So if you have any comments, go ahead and leave them below. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer them if I can. And yeah, go ahead and like the video and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'll see you all soon.